Welcome to Risky Thoughts with Rob and Roy.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Roy. And today we have Zhang.
Hello, thinkers.
Again.
Back again.
He's back at it. So our last episode, we had Shervon on the show as a panel member. We're going to try to do that in the future again. Once again, I also want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank, everybody who's kind of shared our podcast. We have had an increase in views. Apparently, Rob is the
metrics guy.
Yeah, he's the metrics guy. He analyzes those, and
yeah, we've had steady growth. Let's put it that way.
Okay, yeah, and we also want to sincerely apologize for last week. We weren't able to get up an episode. I started a new role. We're all moving, right? I know that was the episode we did try to record, and it kind of didn't go so well, so we had to kind of can it.
Well, actually, it went great, but
yeah.
The problem is we didn't double check the technicals to make sure the audio was functioning correctly.
Right.
So we sat here for an hour, recorded a great masterpiece.
Man, it was amazing,
and it sounded like a dog's breakfast.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And now we'll just live in legends.
Yeah, exactly, man.
The myth of
moving men. So we had a conversation with Shervon just recently, and I'm trying to find the energy to kind of push through this new job and new role I'm taking, right? And all of the anxieties and the stress, and I've obviously come to points. We're all millennials, right? This is why I wanted to do this episode, and we're entitled, right? And there's this kind of thought that keeps coming back to me of that this little slice of nothing, right? Somebody would kill for, someone would die for it. So it's given me a great amount of energy to kind of pivot my negative thoughts about having to work a 9 to 5. As we talked before, I was not very keen on that, but I'm doing it now. But I'm, part of being pragmatic is being able to manipulate yourself into doing what you need to do, right? And what we think we need to do. So, today I want to talk about taking things for granted, right? We are millennials.
Right. So I think it would be wise as a listener to this episode to listen to the previous episode with the interview with Shervon.
Absolutely.
Just to give you a baseline of where Roy is sort of positioning himself from.
Yeah.
It was a conversation that acted as an eye-opener for how lucky we actually are as Canadians and as second-generation or third-generation Canadians,
right,
who've kind of had things, handed to us, and sort of respecting the positives that we have in our lives,
right,
and being grateful for them, because we definitely are not.
So I want to kind of start with a story, because actually this is relevant to all three of us right now. A couple of weeks ago, me and Rob, we went to do a very laborious job in a factory, just for fun, right? And what we had to do is we had to take a bunch of carpets and skid them, right? So I don't know if you're willing to talk about that.
I am, yeah, of course.
So that was a very tough job. There was a lot of crouching. It was 4 hours of just pure labor, and at the end of it, the guys asked us, whoa, we're not young men anymore. So this is definitely very difficult. We're in our 30s, right? And the guys were asking us, a lot of them were South Asian, and the boss was a Punjabi.
They were mostly Indian and Punjabi.
Yeah, yes. Indian and Punjabi, right? And they're just when's the last time you did this job? And we both looked at each other, and we're both crippled. Our muscles are just jello.
For half a shift. And half a trailer.
Right. And we did it together. You're supposed to do a trailer by yourself. So just imagine opening up a trailer,
like a sea can. Footer, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just packed to the brim with boxes and carpets. And we had to skid all of them, 52 a skid. I don't know. I know this is a language that you guys might not understand, but everyone knows what a skid is. But the point is, it's just every time
maybe everyone doesn't know what a skid is.
I think the point is, yeah, it was tough. And they asked us when's the last time we did this, and me and Rob said we've never done this in our entire life. right?
Well, that specific task, we've done laborious tasks before.
Yeah, laborious.
Anyways, but
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, to that degree. But, so now, if you don't mind, Zhang, I'm going to kind of throw you in here. And
Yeah, because I'm asking about doing this work.
Yeah,
After
you
hearing
are.
the story, like,
yeah,
part of me is like, how bad could it be?
Yeah.
Because like, but at the same time, I go from like this like office job guy to
Yeah.
like labor, like moving boxes,
Boxes,
out of
yeah.
out of a truck.
I don't know, man. I think you're going to transition okay. I think we're making it out to sound so much worse than it actually is.
Yeah.
The carpets was a specific product that was difficult to move.
Right.
And let's not get into the mechanics as to why it was more
So
difficult.
I'm praying I don't get a carpet.
but pretty much, man. Yeah, like just cross your fingers, dude.
Yeah.
But you
If
know,
they say
like
carpets, just leave.
the thing is, like anytime I'm dealing with like just some, like horrible things happening, I always like to make the joke that hey, at least it's not D-Day and we're storming the beaches of Normandy.
Yeah.
Well, this is the whole point of the episode. It's like we're such ungrateful pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even like we got paid. That particular day we didn't get paid that well.
Yeah.
But that job pays reasonable. Like it's $160 clean money it was supposed to be a 4-hour shift.
Yeah.
That's $40 an hour of cash. Like that's good money, man. That's a huge earnings if you can maintain 8 hours a day making $40 a day, $40 an hour.
Yeah.
Clean after taxes, that's like $55 an hour of salary. Think about it, that's like 100 and something thousand. It's a
Damn.
6-figure salary, really.
So I was going like, and I'm just like, because obviously you're taking a very positive approach to this. I'm still like burned by the incident. Like I used to go to Good Life every single day. Like, you know what I mean? I'd do like an hour-long workout and then I would do a little bit of a run. Like this was like 4 Good Life like classes plus like 15, 20 kilometers of like running. It all jam-packed in 4 hours. So like that was like severe exhaustion. But you know,
I'm,
I mean,
I'm gonna train for like a week. I'm gonna
yeah,
like
you know,
move some boxes at home, like up and down the stairs, and then
no, 100%. It's like it's so
I feel like I have to, or else I won't survive.
yeah, like it's such a weird way that we're talking. It's like this is like remember Tough Mudder like that.
Yeah.
This is like we have to train to do like a trailer. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. But
I mean, they did say to us, like all the guys that were in there, first of all, they were younger, so their bodies definitely heal faster and whatever. But they did say that like it gets easier, right? Like the first week is hard.
yeah,
And then you just grow accustomed to it, like anything else, right?
yeah.
You're putting yourself through some form of like endurance. Like that's not the right word for it, but you're like enduring some form of labor and stress on your body.
Yeah.
You can grow accustomed to it just like going to the gym, right?
Right.
So did that experience give you guys a new appreciation for
There was a
office
lot.
jobs?
You know, I mean, did it?
We did it for a day. So to say that we learned anything
Yeah.
or to say that we suffered some
So
level.
you gotta give it a little bit more time, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
before
I
you
would
make it-
I would say though that yes, given the amount of suffering that we thought we endured for a night,
Yeah.
and realizing this is hard work, and people that do this job, like it's a transient. So the job is a job placement through an agency,
Right.
right? So the only time that people usually go to agencies is if you can't get full time work,
Yeah.
or if you're looking to just add filler time to make some money. So you got to remember these roles are not intended to be like full time, long time positions.
Yeah.
So, I would say that like looking from the outside in, yeah, I would not want to have to do that every single day of my life. But to say that like, oh, I'm so appreciative of my job in the office now, I don't think that realization was made in that moment. But I did gain respect for those who do these kinds of jobs. That much I would say.
Well, okay, fine. So that's an interesting place to kind of start. It's like you didn't feel. So it didn't have an effect on your current.
Well, because I think my current job comes with its price too.
Right.
Like, I mean, the pay is great,
Right.
but there is there's no physical stress, but I have extreme mental stress.
Right.
Extreme mental stress is
For
how
sure.
you would describe it, eh?
Well, in moments of like when we're busy,
Yeah.
like if I'm building multiple buildings simultaneously, every project in construction has problems. Always. Like there's no such thing as a perfect job.
Yeah.
Like the drawings and the specs, they're only like a guideline to how to get things done. There's always in situ problems that occur that create like spontaneous requirements of like, you know, you need to act quickly, or there are severe consequences financially, or schedule consequences, or whatever.
Urgency, right?
Right? So, like, you have to act instantaneously to a situation in order to prevent. And that's the part that gets the stress. The stress comes on because you're afraid of the consequences. So I don't think that actually executing the solution is the stressful part. I think the stressful part is if you don't execute the solution,
The consequences of
you'll be paying a price. Yeah. And like that could, like in theory, I mean, it could cost you a job. Like if you have a full-time position as a project manager working for a construction company, I'm not saying that if you make a mistake once, you're going to lose your job. But if you make a mistake that costs the company $2 million, like, yeah, there's probably going to be a good chance that you're not going to be around for very long because, you know, you cost the company more money than you earn in 10 years. So, like, you're obviously a liability to the company. And as a liability, you have to go.
Okay, so I got to ask you, if you were paid the same amount of money moving boxes.
I'd move boxes.
You move boxes.
I'd move boxes,
Yeah, same.
I would. I seriously would.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's like, remember we did an episode a while back, you know, we're talking about like how I live like a ragtag life. Like that's one of the biggest reasons why I liked building decks. You know, it's a really nice margin, like nice, enough to live for 2 months. You know what I mean? Like based on like a very like modest lifestyle. And it's just like, there's no stress. The stress was very minimal, right?
Yeah.
Because like what's going to go really wrong?
Well,
with
what
deck?
happens though when you're building a deck and your client is like some crazy person who's
Yeah.
like threatening to not pay you or the company that you work for
Yeah.
because you're not performing.
Well, that's why we have
And if you're
chainsaws.
relying on that income from that deck to feed you for 2 months, like you just described,
Yeah.
and they say, I'm not going to pay you, what are you going to do for 2 months?
Well, this is it, right? I mean, you can, no, of course, that definitely applies, and we've definitely had customers like that. Most of our customers were good. Like, we do fire certain customers. Like, if we're like, oh, you're asking for, okay, this is right off the bat, you know what it is. When you go into quote a job, right? We had one guy, he's just like, you need to do this and that, you know, we want pictures every day. And it's like, sure, pictures are, you know, like what? For a deck? You know what I mean? For a deck? Literally, me and the guy I was working with, you know, we just said, fuck this guy. No, absolutely not. Like, you have the liberty and luxury of firing your customer.
Yeah, because you have food at your table when you come home. If you
Well,
don't have
if
that,
you don't, you have to do
You
it,
gotta
right?
eat it.
No,
Right, and that's the thing about those people working in those places where they're unloading trailers. They don't have
Yeah.
the food on the table, so they either slave all day to get a paycheck, or they don't eat. Like
Yeah.
that's where we have to learn to be grateful.
Yeah.
Like that's the part that we should be grateful for, not the fact that we work in an office.
Right.
Be grateful for the fact that you
have a job.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You
Like
have
that's
income.
literally, man. And I would have to agree. Like, you know what I mean?
I gotta ask you a bit more on the stress part. Like, you ever lose sleep?
Yes, for sure. Not anymore. But I did in the beginning of the career. It's like anything else, man. If you get a job and you're working for a company for 10 years, you making a mistake, they're not going to fire you because you've put 10 years of service in, and obviously you've proven yourself. So if you make a mistake, it's going to be recognized as a mistake. If you make a mistake at the early stages, like in the first year of your job, they might think you're just incompetent and you're not capable of performing. Mm-hmm. So you're expendable at that point. But if you put years in and you've earned your keep and you've sort of proven that you're capable, making a mistake doesn't have as dire consequences. So the whole losing sleep part for me comes like, well, if I make a mistake and I just started at a new company, I am going to lose sleep because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job completely. Mm-hmm. And then I have to scramble to find another job. But in terms of am I losing sleep over the actual problems at the job site, like in some situations, yes, because safety's on the line. Mm-hmm. And perhaps like there's an actual incident that may have occurred where someone got hurt or even died, right? Like construction accidents are like the most common of all accidents in workplaces. And they usually have the most severe outcomes, right? Like I have seen guys die on sites. You know, I've seen guys literally fall off windows in skyscrapers. Like they fall out.
That's a mistake. Like that
Well,
can
that's
get you
because
fired.
yeah. Well, that would be someone getting fired because the protocol wasn't followed to ensure that safety. That's not just fired.
Yeah.
That's not just. You're getting sued and you'll probably go to jail
That's a
for
lot of stress.
misconduct
Yeah.
as a project manager or site supervisor.
Yeah.
I worked for a guy who actually had a scaffold collapse on one of his projects.
Wow, man.
The guy was doing something like $100 million worth of revenue in a year. Like his company was doing very well.
Wow.
Right? And he had this incident occur. It was on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Okay, it's in the papers. It was in the
Oh,
news.
okay.
Yeah, it happened like maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago now. I think it was actually 2009, I think is when it actually happened. But yes, it was a big story because it was Christmas Eve and 3 guys lost their life.
Fuck.
They fell off of a swing stage on a building and they all died.
Yeah.
The project manager on the project was the owner of the company, was being tormented by the media. Like they were basically trying to like crucify this guy.
Right.
Felt bad for him for that. And the site superintendent served time. He did 6 months in prison.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah, because there was negligence on their part to follow through with the safety protocol. Like there are responsibilities you have as a site superintendent or as a project manager to make sure you've got the right sign-offs that indicate that everything is safe and that you have done everything that you can possibly do to prevent an incident from happening. And if you didn't do that, you are culpable and responsible for the lives and safety of those who are on your job site.
Yeah.
Right? So that's when I would say I might lose some sleep if something like that comes up.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does come up in like a career, right?
All the time.
All the time.
Wow.
That's crazy. I mean, for I guess like people who don't work in these industries, like don't take that stuff for granted. Like, I mean, just think about like, you know, I used to work in an office job. Like the stuff that I lose sleep over, like it's nothing. I think that's why I didn't go into like engineering work, because I was like, oh, people's lives are on the line and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because now you're obviously seeking employment.
Yeah.
And so you're on the other side of this fence, and where we're here bitching about our jobs, where you are looking for a job.
Yeah.
So what is your position on our attitude towards bitching about our jobs when you are in the position where you're seeking employment?
I mean, I get it, because I'm looking at the job postings and I'm like, do I really want to like manage like, you know, a couple $1 million in like on an ad account? Like it's kind of the same. Well, it's not in the same realm, but like you were saying, like if there's a mistake or something, there's like a delay or something happens on site, like costs like millions of dollars, and people lose their jobs over that.
100%.
And then it's like careers get ruined over that. So, I mean, it makes me think about like, you know, what do I want from my career? Part of it's like I want to like do the safe route. But, you know, then I think about like, man, lifting box and stuff, I could get hit by a forklift. Like I could lose a foot.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's no safe spaces out there.
Yeah.
Like work is just, I mean, I think I'm just going to keep going back to that Normandy piece and just say like, whatever job we do, like if I'm losing sleep or whatever, like
that's
at
like
least,
an interesting
at least we're not in
yeah.
the trenches. At least like, you know, I can't remember who else I was talking this about the other day, but yeah, like, can't believe what it's like to be in like a serious like war, like World War I.
Yeah.
Like getting trench foot. Like I was telling him, like I don't think I would make it.
Yeah,
I'm way too
I don't think I
soft.
would either, to be honest.
Fuck.
I don't think any of us would.
No
Anybody from our
millennial,
generation would
zero
not.
millennials. There's not one person. Maybe there's obviously some people, but
I think you would because you're a coward.
wow.
I'm just kidding. No, 'cause I was just only saying that because I was thinking about that like myself.
Yeah, so
like
you're
I
just
would
projecting
I would
that
make
onto
it
me.
out the war. And
Okay,
like,
just to be clear, he was just projecting that onto me.
well, I was just thinking like I'd probably make it out of the war, and then people would think I'm some hero, but I was just a coward that like
you just ran.
Snaked your way
yeah,
to
just like
survival.
hid in the shed. And it was like, "Where's your medals? Oh, you don't have a medal? You're definitely a coward." All cowards don't have medals.
Take someone else's name. Like, you know,
Well, I mean, that is the one thing that like we have to always consider is that we're living in a time, in a place where we do have a lot to be grateful for, and we overlook it every single day. You were talking, like even in the Shervon interview, you had mentioned that, you know, he's never seen bridges and roads this wide before.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys ever think about that when you're driving? Like, holy shit, look at the luxury of this fucking nice.
No, that's
road.
why it was so great to just like hear about that, and I was like, that's actually so true, because I've been to a lot of places. I've been to third world countries, and it's like, yeah, it's if you forget, and it's so crazy that like you can have these experiences, and then all of a sudden get so caught up in your first world problems.
Yeah.
And then you guys just step back. I think this like not having a job for me is kind of good too, because it actually made me really appreciate like what I did have before, and now I'm like, I'm pretty sure I won't be so quick to like throw it all away.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it was COVID. I was just like, oh, this world is crazy. It's fucked. Like I need to just separate from whatever I was doing. But you know, maybe there's something else. I'm like, maybe. Yeah, I was like deeply unhappy about my position and just the meaningless of it all. But like, I think somewhere in there's like, just even being in Canada and being in like a first world country, like there's There's got to be a lot of
fucking
meaning
great.
in that, right?
There's
Yeah,
a ton of it. We're so blind to it. We're so ignorant to it. That's a better word for it.
Yeah, it's So this episode we're talking about taking things for granted, and now we're starting to get back on track with this topic. And a lot of friends of mine told me, like, Roy, you need to travel more, dude. Like, you need to see what it's like in, not saying travel to like a hotel and like a resort. I'm saying, like, you gotta freaking travel to, like,
Become cultured
and understand, like, how shit people's living conditions are. Like, you don't have to travel, but, like, there's a lot of videos online now that kind of give you that vicarious experience.
I think that the personal experience would be much more influential.
100%.
Yeah, maybe you'll have a VR version of that.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait for that. Just take it off when you want. No, I'm just kidding. But, like, it's part of that. That's where the complaining comes from. And we're feeling entitled. Even when Shervon was telling us about the bridges and stuff, it's just like, I was not thinking about the bridges. I was thinking about the job that we had. We went out to go do a job, to take some photographs, right? And, like, I'm, like, thinking about the job, and, like, Shervon was definitely in the moment. It's just like, oh, this is beautiful. But it's really interesting. I've been listening to a lot of Sam Harris. I know we're on another tangent here, and what he says is, like, we start focusing on the future too much, and, like, the planning and all that stuff, and, like, we're always working to get back to the present because there's so many things in our head, right? You know what I mean? And, like, we can't be in the moment, like, right now. You know what I mean? We're, like, kind of in the moment, right? And as soon as it's done, we got to do this. I got to sell the house. I got to do this. You know what I mean? It's all this shit, right? And it's just like, you don't have that right now. And it's like, you should also not take that for granted. You know what I mean? Like, even this moment, like, don't stress out on whatever you're looking for. It's just, you get a chance to just observe the moment right now.
Isn't that so funny? You're so stressed out about having your job.
Oh, I'm
right
so
now.
fucking stressed out.
You're stressed out about not having a job.
Yeah.
You're, like, in polar opposite states in mind.
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's like when I first like quit my job, I had like maybe a 3-month period where it was like, it was okay. I was, like, really just taking it all in, really appreciating life. Yeah. And then just, after that, it's like reality hits. You're just like, okay, well, you got to sustain yourself, and you got to, like...
Yeah, the future.
The future, again, is the future. But, I mean, can't blame people for, like, always worry about the future, because there's so many things can go wrong.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's the other thing. Like, people don't think about how things could go right. I think people get caught up in, like, what could be wrong, and also the other thing is looking at their current situation and just thinking about why it isn't right or why it isn't good. That's the other part about taking things for granted. Like, all things considered, like, right now, like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, there's stressors, like tomorrow's problems or whatever, but for the most part, like, most of the problems that we have it doesn't, like, the bulk of the problem isn't, like, that long. You might have, like, even if you get yelled at work, it's like 15 minutes of getting yelled at, but you'll spend, like, the whole day before, the whole night, you're like thinking about how you're gonna get yelled at.
Yeah. What is that? Like, because actually
comes from childhood, I think.
Sorry?
I think that fear comes from childhood.
From childhood.
Yeah, I think we're all afraid,
like,
of our parents yelling at us, telling us not to do something.
Yeah. One of my closest friends, like, she just told me about a dream that she had, right? And I am going to say it on air. It's just like, she's coming to class and she's not prepared for the test. Very similar to what you were kind of telling me about. And it's like, there's something in there, like, not being prepared, like, and, getting yelled at, being publicly embarrassed, like, you're not getting the right job you need, right? And, like, there's something there. I think if we were to kind of uncover that, perhaps there could be some sort of kind of, like, solace for us to, free ourselves from whatever we're feeling right now. Parts of the solution are trying to be mindful of the present and the fact that I have a job and people would kill for it. Sure, that does work, but how do we? What do you guys think it's possible to overcome this completely?
Yeah, I think, first of all, if you are mindful enough to be grateful for what you have, I think being yelled at doesn't bring as much anxiety because you actually appreciate that you're being yelled at.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if you're being yelled at by somebody in your life, it's because they actually just want better for you.
Yeah, of
Whether
course.
it's an employer, a parent, whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have malicious individuals. Obviously, who will yell at you for the wrong reasons, who just want to make you feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time, like, there's obviously a message behind why you're being yelled at, right?
Oh yeah, I'd say like 99% of the time. It's
Yeah, like
yeah.
you've done something wrong,
Yeah.
and therefore this is where someone is yelling at you to tell you, you know, you've done something wrong. Just like your brain tells you when you put your hand on a hot stove, your brain yells at you and says, "This hurts. Get your hand away." It's the same kind of idea, right? So like, we need to, if you were to be able to appreciate and be grateful for even having somebody to yell at you.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah,
You
like,
know?
not taking that for granted. Like you have somebody that cares enough to
teach you.
like yell at you and stuff.
Yeah. And like, this is, again, something that we always overlook. And what do we do with that? We bitch about it. We go home, we tell our wives, we tell our friends, what a fucking asshole my boss is. I can't believe you talk to me like that.
Yeah.
But he still pays you.
Yeah.
And
He
he's
didn't
like a
fire
good,
you, you know what I mean? Like,
and they're good people too. Like, it's just like, where's the cognitive dissonance?
I think
there,
here's the other thing. It's like I'm the type of person that needs that painful reminder to like really like solidify like, don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
me too.
Again.
Yeah. I think all of us actually are like that.
I think most humans are in general.
Yeah.
Some not, but you know.
Well, this is like the whole overarching concept of like, did we need religion, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, we needed some punishment structure or something to keep us in line.
Something else
Yeah.
I want to talk about with respect to like taking things for granted, because I just like, long story short, I had a string of like bad luck, and it was just one of those weeks where you just like can't catch a break.
Yeah.
And so a couple of days ago, I dropped my phone, and I had this phone for like a year, and it's like dropped it like hundreds of times probably. And just this one time, it fell on a weird angle, like hit the edge of something, and I was thinking like, why am I not more careful about where I keep my phone? Like I've dropped this thing like 100 times, and it's never broke, and I just took it for granted that like, not like this, you can't just keep dropping this thing.
Yeah, because the universe didn't yell at you for dropping.
Well, now it did. It's just like,
Well, now you're gonna learn.
yeah, now I'm gonna learn. It's such a painful matter. Like, but there's so many things that maybe I'm just one of those people that like have a hard time taking care of things. I don't know if you guys have that problem too. Like,
I think so. Like, my parents and my family members, like my wife, a lot of people in my life would look at me and be like, "You're reckless."
I guess I am kind of a reckless person.
Yeah, disorganized as well. There's a sloppiness to my methods.
Same here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm careless. Like, these are all like words and like adjectives I would use to describe my behavior in life.
Yeah.
Like, I get parking tickets for no reason when I could just register my vehicle, and like I would not get. But I'm just like, yeah, I'll do it in 5 minutes, and then eventually I just don't do it because like my brain's like.
So like we need to get better though, right?
Yeah, we do have to get better, and I think that's the whole point of this conversation and all of our conversations.
So how do we get better?
By being mindful, right? By being mindful of our character.
It's like that. It's like that reason why you didn't even care about your phone. You weren't mindful of it, right?
Because I just like didn't think it would break. Because you're just like, oh, I've got some type of protector on it. Like, oh, this phone, like I can drop it from this height. So you just stop. Like, it's like. But now I think, you know, with my next phone, I'll just be like, okay, make sure you put your phone in a place where like
It's not going to happen.
it's not gonna happen. It's like treat it like a glass of water.
I think this is the whole thing about gratefulness. You're not grateful for your phone.
No, that's
Right? You weren't grateful. I have a wife who, like, we're going through some shit in our life right now.
Right.
And, like, I could lose her. And I have a son as well. Right? I could lose them. And the reason why I could lose them is because just like I treat my phone the same way that you treat your phone, or my parking situation, it's because I'm not grateful for having it. And, like, I have had to learn through a very close call of the hard way that I need to be more grateful for my wife and my child and my family, because they have all been through a lot with the shit that I've caused, and they've supported me for it. So I have gone through an experience recently as well, much like your phone breaking. I almost broke my relationships, and I've now had to like open my eyes and be more grateful for the fact that they are there in my life.
Yeah.
And if we start treating everything like that, our jobs, and instead of sitting on a podcast bitching about how we don't have things in this world, maybe we'll have a different life.
I gotta like one up you here, like with the.
Oh, I know.
Because like that's such an interesting point. Because like, I also want to bring up the fact like how many people take our lives for granted. Because like a couple years ago, I got hit by a car. I wasn't paying attention. I was just you gotta look. You gotta look both ways.
I remember this.
You gotta look both ways, and like. and I just like look in the corner of my eye of this like white Honda Civic, and I just like jumped, totally like smashed the mirror. Like I like landed on the floor. I was like, oh my God, I hope I'm okay. Like I didn't smash my hips or something. Like
This guy almost like fuck your phone. You almost broke your body.
I almost
like you broke your fucking
but you
life.
know, it's so crazy because like I haven't even thought about that experience like in a long time. But like I almost lost my life there, and yeah, it's so weird. Like you just kind of feels bad because I feel like I just like it's kind of frustrating because it almost feels like I don't learn. Like it's easy to say like, okay, yeah, you gotta take, you can't take things for granted.
Yeah.
You have to like,
See, this is where I have to interject and add like a different kind of perspective. Like, I do believe we are a punish-based society. Like with the news and everything, we're consistently told, "Oh, don't do that," like because this is gonna happen. But maybe we're just individuals. Maybe we're just individuals who don't learn that way. Like maybe
we learn through positive reinforcement.
I think positive reinforcement.
That's a load of shit.
No, it fucking works.
I don't buy it.
Well, okay, so I'm starting this habit where I try to write down 3 things I'm grateful for, like every day, and I think that's made a positive impact on my life.
Positive reinforcement, like I'm telling you, Rob.
That's not positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement would be like he gets a chocolate bar after he writes down all these 3 things. That's positive reinforcement. Or you get told you did a great job today, Roy.
Well,
that's positive reinforcement.
I mean, if I did that, I'd probably keep the habit more.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
I'm
shown
not saying
that-
positive reinforcement never works.
No, but
the
statistically it works
corrective
more.
issues- No, I don't believe that.
It's okay.
Okay, so wait, what is our issue then? I think we're just forgetful people.
Well, I think our brains are wired in a way that we have a very difficult time of like remembering things. I have a very good memory, but when it comes to like remembering to be grateful, I forget that very quickly. I get complacent
It's not a
very
habit.
quickly.
I feel like we need to make that thing a habit or something. So
So how do we do that? How do you make it happen? Maybe it's the activity of writing it down every day. Maybe it's the journal that you're keeping.
Yeah,
maybe that will help.
maybe.
But that's positive reinforcement.
How is that positive reinforcement?
Because
Where is his reward for writing things down?
Well,
It's the good feeling that
the
you
good-
get when you like. That's the whole idea. Like you write
let's
down
do
the things you're
for good
grateful
feelings
for,
rather
and
than
you
for
yeah.
like negative feelings. Like if you're like, oh yeah, fucking you fucked it up. Blah, blah.
So you're positively reinforcing yourself. Like it's not. I think of positive reinforcement as like an external force where you get rewarded for behavior.
It is.
Not
This
that your
is
behavior
just more
rewarding.
subtle. It's like the behavior itself is
Rewarding.
kind of- yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's different than being rewarded for behavior.
I mean, it's just semantics at this point.
Okay, possibly.
Yeah.
But like my dog, when he gives me his paw and I give him a treat, that's positive reinforcement.
Yeah, and that's shown to prove, like, that's psychologically proven, clinically proven, to be more effective at making something a bit more permanent in terms of a behavior.
I think almost being hit by a car or almost dying would teach me a lot faster than like giving me a treat every time I go.
You would think, but let me tell you.
yeah,
Yeah, that was such a weird experience. That just like almost dying, and still I like kind of take my life for granted. Like,
Yeah, that's a pretty serious one. That's about as serious as it gets.
yeah.
And same with me. You know what I mean? Like
You had the health scares.
I
too.
had the health scares, and I'm still doing things that are kind of questionable here and there.
Like
I-
how
and
like
I also-
after this we're gonna go out for a smoke.
Yeah, well, yes, okay, and then that, and also I bought a motorcycle. So like, you know what I mean? Like we're not learning, Rob. Like the negative
Well,
reinforcement.
okay,
is not
so that's the
working.
other thing. Like, I feel like this is all part of the karmic loop. Like karma, it's the universe is gonna just keep shitting on us until
Yeah.
we finally get it.
Till we die.
Okay, let
Maybe.
me rephrase my statement actually, because I'm
Yeah.
sorry to cut you off, saying because now it's bothering me what you just said,
Yeah.
and the fact that I actually am questioning what I've said,
Yeah.
and I think I'm also wrong, but I think you're also wrong,
Okay.
and I think the answer is somewhere in the middle, where I
Absolutely.
think that you still need to be punished for bad actions,
Right.
but you should be positively reinforced for good actions.
Yes.
I think you need both of them.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you need both of them because the reality is just like you make a bad mistake as like a llama, like a tiger's gonna like just come murk you.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I
and
mean?
I just interpret your message to be like, no, you shouldn't punish your child for doing
no,
something wrong.
yes, of course. Like
I think
No,
you need
it's
to
not.
punish
Yeah, it's
them.
not black
Yeah.
and white.
Yeah,
It's not just.
I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
like a mixture, and I think, but predominantly, like there has to be like a positiveness to the entire experience.
Right? Do you think we're just saying that because we didn't get enough positive reinforcements?
As
growing
children?
up?
Yeah,
That's probably yeah.
Well, maybe we got. It's so complicated on
Well,
how to
because
motivate
you know,
someone.
because I know friends who are on like the other side where like all they got was positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
But
Are they as fucked up as we are?
it's well, to some extent. So what happens is they don't face adversity until like later into adulthood,
See, but that's
and then they get like, well, then they
Crippled
can't.
by it.
Yeah, they get crippled by it.
it's so weird too, Rob, because it's like even in my head, I think like if your kid is breaking shit and you're like you give them a stern like push, you know what I mean? I actually okay, so maybe on a clinical level I'm using the wrong language. I still see that as a positive experience. Like you know
that is not positive reinforcement.
that's a okay. Then so it's not a positive reinforcement, but like I'm thinking like positive experience. Like you know what I mean? You get yelled at for doing something wrong.
Is that a positive experience?
There's negative feelings attached to it, right? And
No, man, come on. You can't. Like, there's no debating the definition of saying that. Like, Roy made a mistake.
Yeah, okay, you're
and
right,
I come
you're
in with
right.
a baseball bat and hit him and think, oh, there's some positive in this. No, like, that's not positive
it's like
reinforcement.
redefining like everything in life to be positive. I get it. I get it.
Unless he's
So
one of
let's
those.
stick with positive reinforcement, right? Like there's some thing to do with positive.
I mean, I think it really
reinforcement
depends
is-
on like where, like the type of personality you
Yeah,
are,
that much is for sure.
and also like what's going on in your life. Like if you're like down in the dumps, like
And
Yeah.
someone comes and kicks you
yeah,
and
it's
gets you
like,
down.
please, I'm down right now.
Yeah, like when we're talking about the incels. Remember that other week, right? It's like
episode, yeah.
if we're gonna go up to them and like say bad shit to them, like
Give them
they can end
negative.
up coming with like an AK and just like murking everyone. You know what I mean?
Well, look at what happened in Pennsylvania with the guy in the snow
oh,
shovel.
look at that. That was negative
Like,
reinforcement.
to
to
talk about being grateful.
yes.
Like, you don't have a neighbor that comes with a shotgun and blows your head off.
Yeah, fuck, man.
Did you watch the video?
No.
I'll show it to you after.
I mean, I read it. I read what happened.
Yeah, we'll show you the video. It's like ridiculous.
Jesus.
Like, it's ridiculous. Anyway, let's not go too much into that topic. But the point is gratefulness, because we're getting way off topic here.
Yeah.
But I think what we're trying to summarize
Yeah.
is that through these experiences of like positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, whatever, we're trying to reinforce the concept of being grateful.
Grateful,
Right?
Because you can be grateful all the time.
I think it's just a good way to always find the positive in whatever like shitty situation you're in. At least that's like my coping mechanism right now. Like, at least I got a roof over my head. At least I got 3 meals and like, and my parents let me use their car. Like, it's, like all things considered, like pretty good. But it doesn't mean to get complacent. Like I still have to like hustle.
Yes. Well, that's weird. Unfortunately, the last episode that we recorded got compromised, but that's kind of what I was saying last week when we were talking about my position and my outlook on life. Is that I don't necessarily use those words and say like, oh, always find the silver lining kind of thing, but I don't find myself getting overly distraught over something that's not in its order, right? Like I think even what we're talking about now is about order and chaos a little here,
Yeah.
right? Like you're saying, be grateful for the roof over your head. Well, that's order in your life. You have order in your life, and you're choosing to be grateful for that order. And I'm just saying that, like, even when disorder strikes, I find it a useful tactic to, rather than focus on the chaos, it's kind of like being solution based rather than problem focused, right? You have chaos in your life. That's fine. That chaos is there. It's not going to go anywhere just because you feel bad about it. It's more important to think about, like, how can I restructure and put it back into order?
Right. So it's almost like a reduction of chaos.
Correct. Yeah. Because I would equate chaos to somewhat level of suffering, like,
Yeah, and you're never gonna get zero chaos.
Correct.
But like I think one part additionally is like part of that repertoire of when you're handling chaos is like you're taking action, right? So like that's really important. Like you have to take action.
Yeah, I think there's
Like
something.
it-
This is something more I think about it, is like something I struggle with about being alive is that the universe wants to like go into the state of like entropy, and there's always going to be. It wants to go into chaos,
Yes.
and it like stresses me out a little bit.
Well, it should. I mean, it stresses us all out. Like at the end of the movie Tenet, I was just talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
The definition, if you read the synopsis of Tenet, it's about a guy who's able to reverse the process of entropy, and by doing so, he's able to reverse time. Right? Like you
Trippy.
can move in and out of time by managing, the levels of entropy. It's like, well, look, entropy is ever increasing. This is an actual fact, according to our science as it is today, anyways. And like, because you know this and you're aware of this, there's no reason to feel discouraged or anxious over chaos encroaching into your life, because that's an inevitable fact of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like do what you can to manage that chaos and put it into some form of order, right? And I would say that like when you become complacent, it's the equivalent to becoming ungrateful. Like I think complacency is a function or a product that's somehow networked with gratefulness and ungratefulness, right? Because when you become complacent in a relationship, for example, you're actually becoming less grateful for what you have.
Because you think that's not worth it to like
Right.
do something about it. Right?
Correct. You don't have to take you can choose inaction over action, right? And that's the path down complacency.
Right. So it has to do, but you're saying like the start of it is identifying that you should be grateful.
Yes, I
And
think
then that's going to lead,
correct.
that thought is going to lead to a higher chance of an action taken to maintain this order.
Correct.
In this,
So
in this area.
Okay,
of your
so
life.
now like when I kind of think about in the topic like depression, I think what happens is things continue to go into chaos, and the steps that you take, the small actions, feel like it's not enough to make any meaningful order, impact on the order of things. And so it feels like it's futile to like, because there's an element of complacency to it, right? Like you're just like, well, it doesn't matter how hard I try, or the seemingly like doesn't matter how hard I try, I can't get a handle on this thing still like falling apart, right?
That's interesting. That's an interesting like model there.
I think also in depression though we're circumventing the fact that like there's something misfiring, right? Like we're using logic and reason right now to analyze this. I think when you're in a state of depression, like clinical depression, the capacity to use logic and reason
out the window.
Is diminished. Yeah, like significantly diminished. And that's why you can't help but feel the way that you feel, because you can't reason your way to the finish line. Yeah. Right? You're driven by this like.
I mean, but that's the other argument is like maybe you can't reason yourself into happiness.
Well, that's fair enough too. I think that's actually a very true statement, and it should be an eye opener for all three of us.
I mean, I've tried. It's like a coping mechanism, but it's always.
This is actually what I was telling you the other day. Remember when I was asking you, are you better off in your life, and like, do you consider yourself to be in a good position as you're providing advice for others? Do you think that you're in a position to be doing that?
You're right.
Right, because you've been struggling your whole life to try to use reason and talking things through and thinking about solutions rather than taking action on them. Right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. The answer is yes.
We all do this. I'm not putting it on you.
But I think it's part of like, it's our way of like trying to bring some order into the chaos. Like, and it makes me feel a little bit better. Right. And hopefully it's like someone else listening to this, like gets a piece of insight and they can take that and apply it to their day. I think this is also why I'm so into like reading a lot about these like self-help things, you know. Like, what book were you reading?
Sam Harris is Waking Up.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's like book after book. I'm just like, these things are like rafts that almost like help me stay afloat. And maybe part of it is like, you know, some of this reasoning can actually help me find some sense of like happiness. And it's not even happiness; it's really like contentment, because life ultimately is like suffering. Like there's a lot of like, you know, it's tragic. It's tragic.
Well, I recommend the book. Even in the book, he says it's like you will never. People think that you can achieve like a permanent state of happiness. Like that's like the wushu garbage. Like that he's saying. Like you don't. It's just like it's just temporary and fleeting, right? But if you do this activity, you will get. I think actually now thinking about it, it's like if you do this activity of meditation, you will increase your chances of getting moments of happiness within a given period of time frame. But that's just one thing. There's also taking action and doing stuff, right? That's also going to add and provide you happiness as well. So it's like it's this kind of compilation and mixture of multiple things that we should try to do, you know, but it's just like where are you allocating time and how much time are you allocating to one particular variable that can give you happiness, right? So it's like if you're spending, let's just say out of the entire week, 40 hours, you know, you're spending thinking about how to try to get happy. Well, you're going to get happy a little bit, but like the fundamental rule is that you're not going to get happy all the time. Like it's impossible, right? So maybe like get some utility and some utility points in some other variables. Like for example, like getting up early, doing something, you know what I mean? You can rationalize is going to do some stuff. You know, these thoughts of not taking for granted is definitely going to give us some perspective, but you know, listen, I don't know the whole picture, right? I'm just trying to carve out like little bits of what we can try to do, right? And like have discussion about it. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about maybe volunteering like one day. And,
Let's
like,
just do it. Let's fuck talking about it. Let's just do it.
Listen. I signed up for a volunteer service. It's called Food Share, right? It's one of the main ones in Ontario or Toronto. So I'll send you guys a link. Maybe actually we'll put this one in the Instagram at some point. Yeah, and it's just helping giving food out to people who need food. Right? You know what I mean?
Done.
Okay.
Right.
The next time we come onto the microphone, we better fucking done this.
Yeah.
Or like just count me out for the podcast. I'll never come back.
Oh, Roy's gonna be gone for how long though?
You're not
All right, so we're closing up shop here. No kidding.
No, but yeah, we should be committed to that. I think it'll add some meaning into my life. And
Yeah, I would appreciate doing it too. I think that I would like the world needs it. Period. So
I think doing the thing Rob's opportunity with the boxes and shit. You know what I mean? These are the things that we should all be starting to do now. You know what I mean? I think to get a little understanding of different parts of society and shit. You know what I mean? And
it will bring it'll bring an appreciation for things as well.
Yeah.
It's really we should have done an episode like this at Thanksgiving for the record.
Yeah.
But
we have plenty of time to to prep for that now. Yeah. But that's cool though. I mean that would be a good goal. Like I think if we
start taking part in shit. You know what I mean? Like this is where.
Because it's kind of crazy to think about. It's like I've barely done stuff like when I was younger.
Yeah.
I did some like charity stuff, but like as I got older, I don't know. Like
when was the last time you guys ever did any charity work? I haven't done it. I've donated money. I don't think I've physically done charity work aside from like helping educate kids or something like that. But
yeah, so when I was younger, I was like kind of religious. So we went on like church missions to reserves, Indian reserves, or native reserves, shall I say. And that was an interesting experience. We did like day school for the kids, and their parents were kind of like messed up or whatever. But I mean, did I feel good about that? I felt pretty good about that.
Let's get at it. Let's get at this, and let's open a GoFundMe, and let's start fucking donating whatever we can. Any listener that listens that's willing to participate, I think we should start a GoFundMe for some cause. And by the time we come back on the mic, we're gonna have that cause identified. And we're going to support that cause however we possibly can.
Fine. But actually, could I amend that a little bit?
Sure.
Maybe we should, let's go out into the community first.
Of course. The GoFundMe is like something that we can do down the road, whatever.
Yeah, and then I think that would be an interesting way to see where we would think
money is needed.
Money's needed, support's needed. It's just being interesting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool,
and then we get COVID, and then you roll the curb your enthusiasm.
100%.
All right, well.
All right, guys.
This has been a good talk.
Yes, that's another episode of Risky Thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in, guys, and always please check us out on our Instagram at riskythoughts.to. Twitter is riskythought, and hopefully we are going to have the most recent interview that we've done with video content uploaded to our YouTube channel as well. But you can still check us out on YouTube. We do have videos loaded there that are just audio, but we always appreciate the support. So thank you very much, and have a good night, everybody.